You might have heard the term actionable data or actionable analytics. But what does this really mean? The general promise of data is a means to resolve your questions. You pose some questions, you pass these questions through a layer of data analysis, and at the end you form a conclusion. Of course, this conclusion always needs to be approached with a degree of skepticism because data is inherently complex. Nevertheless, this process is the best tool we have to resolve our own questions. And it's not just data analytics in the 21st century on large data sets. This is across all disciplines. A historian, for example, might pose a question: what was Napoleon's favorite food? Consult the historical record, formulate a conclusion. Napoleon liked to eat roasted chicken and maybe fried potatoes. Now, this particular insight answers a question, but it's not necessarily actionable unless you're starting a Napoleon-themed restaurant. But when we skip into the world of business, and now we're building products and services, now we do have to append this additional requirement to our analytics, that they really serve actions. All analytics should serve actions. So this is one point where I think we need to clarify. It's not actionable data, it's actionable questions. If the question itself is not actionable or action-oriented, then it's very unlikely we'll actually have some action come out of it or a specific action. You don't need to have any analytics done whatsoever to understand whether your own prompt is actionable. Just go through the scenario analysis of what would I do if I had an answer to this question. If the answer is if you can't come up with something specific you're going to do or try, then you probably need to narrow your question down, make it more specific and action-oriented. One good step to take is to first make an exhaustive list of all the components of your product and service that you do control. The pricing you control, the product mix, the curation, the marketing, the underlying infrastructure that determines the product performance. There's a long list of components that you control and you've built over time into your product and services. So this is the place where you have to start when you're talking about things you can control, things you can act on. The next step I recommend is to build a causal graph. A causal graph is a graph that expresses the direction and flow of causality through a network. So, think of a simple example is rain, let's say clouds cause rain, cause me to put my umbrella up. This is a simple example of X causes Y causes Z. Your business is definitely way more complex than that. Your business is very complex. It might actually be helpful to start with a very simple example, either a simplified version of your own business or a mock example altogether, like an umbrella stand. So there's a number of factors that would influence the purchases from an umbrella stand: the positioning of the umbrella stand, the number of umbrellas you have, the colors, the shapes. But one key factor would be rain, or weather. So you start with weather and you work all the way through your network and figure out the different paths and nodes that would lead to purchasing an umbrella. One word of caution: I've seen teams do this and sometimes get a little carried away with the causality. We don't need to start unpacking the causality of rain in the example I just gave. I think it suffices to say that you're starting with rain. And the same for when you approach your own business. Be pragmatic and try to form a graph that's going to be a map for your analytics. It can be more than that too, but certainly for analytical development, you want to have this map in place. Every question, every research project or experiment you pose should reference a specific point or points on this map, on this causal graph, and you have a good sense for what actions you're going to take in response to the answers you get back. This is how we start getting closer to actionable analytics. Without this causal graph, there's so much complexity, we're swimming a little bit, and we might be inclined to pose general questions to get a lay of the land. And general questions are good. Exploratory analysis is good at an early stage. But as we get more focused and as we're trying to make more progress, we want to move our business towards advancement. The analytics needs to service actionable questions.